All right, let's get started. We're about to take a virtual field trip to a place that's pretty incredible. A coastline where a walk on the beach is literally a walk through time, 185 million years of it to be exact. We're talking about the Jurassic Coast. It's a place where the planet's story is carved right into the stone and pounded by the water. But it's a story that has a central puzzle, and that's what we're here to solve.
So what's the big mystery? Well, as you travel along this coast, the whole look and feel of the place just changes dramatically. You go from these towering, brilliant white cliffs to these crumbling red rock bays. So how? How can one single stretch of shoreline look so completely different from one end to the other? That's the question, and we are going to find the answer.
And to get our heads around this, you have to appreciate the scale we're talking about. This isn't just a quick stroll. We're covering 95 miles of coastline. But more than that, it's a journey through time. These cliffs hold 185 million years of Earth's history. I mean, that's a time span that saw the dinosaurs come, rule the planet, and then vanish. We're literally walking from the Triassic, through the Jurassic, and right into the Cretaceous period. It's wild.
Okay, so to understand why this landscape is so varied, we have to start with the basics, the building blocks themselves. The secret to the coast's many faces? It's hidden right there in the different kinds of rock it's made of.
And right here, this is the main event. It's basically a story of hard rock versus soft rock. Over in the west, around East Devon, you've got these softer rocks, things like clays and sands. The sea just chews through these, It carves them away pretty easily, creating these wide, gentle bays. But then you head east into Dorset, and everything changes. The geology gets tough. You're talking hard, resistant limestone and chalk. And these rocks, they stand up to the waves, forming those dramatic, sheer cliffs that the coast is so famous for.
Now, the way these rock bands are arranged gives us two totally different styles of coastline. First, you have a concordant coast. That's where the rock layers run parallel to the sea. The waves find a weak spot, they punch through that tough outer layer, and then they just scoop out the softer rock behind it. The result is these spectacular, almost perfectly circular coves, like Lulworth Cove. Then you have the discordant coast, where the rock bands are at a right angle to the sea. And this gives you that classic jagged look. Hard rock sticking out as headlands, with softer rock eroded into bays in between.
So, if the rock is the stone, who's the sculptor in this whole story? Well, the answer is the sea, of course. The relentless, powerful English Channel is the artist here, shaping this masterpiece over millions of years. And believe me, it has some very specific tools for the job.
This brings us to the key process behind everything we're seeing. It's called differential erosion. And honestly, it's a simple but incredibly powerful idea. The sea just wears away the soft rock way faster than it wears away the hard rock. That's it. This one single process is the engine that creates pretty much every major landform you'll see along the Jurassic Coast.
And the sea has this powerful toolkit it uses to get the work done. First up is hydraulic action. This is just the brute force of waves smashing against the cliffs, forcing air into cracks, and literally blasting the rock apart. Then there's abrasion. This is where the sea picks up sand, pebbles, even boulders, and uses them like sandpaper, just scouring away at the cliff face. And finally, there's corrosion, which is more of a chemical attack, where the seawater itself slowly dissolves certain types of rock, like limestone.
Okay, so now let's see what happens when you put all these tools together. We're going to zoom right in and watch these forces in action, breaking down how one of the coast's most iconic features gets made, the sea stack. It all starts with the sea finding tiny little cracks and weaknesses in a big, hard rock headland. Hydraulic action gets in there and widens those cracks into a cave. Over thousands of years, that cave gets bigger and bigger until it punches right through to the other side of the headland, and boom, you've got a sea arch. But the story doesn't stop there. With no support and getting battered by storms, the top of that arch eventually collapses under its own weight. What's left behind is a lonely pillar of rock standing out in the sea. That's your stack. And even then, over more time, that stack will get worn down into a little stump, something you can only see when the tide is out.
But this coastline isn't just some untouched natural wonder. People live here, and when your home is on a coastline that is actively, visibly falling into the sea, well, you have to make some pretty tough choices. When it comes to dealing with coastal erosion, there are really two main playbooks. The first is hard engineering. This is a direct fight, using big structures like concrete seawalls or giant piles of boulders to just hold the line against the sea. Then you have soft engineering, like managed retreat, which is more about working with nature, allowing some areas to erode naturally in a controlled way to help protect others. And for towns like Lyme Regis, it's a constant debate about which approach is best and where.
So what you end up with is this incredible, delicate balancing act.
On one hand, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so there's a global duty to conserve these natural processes. But on the other hand, you have tourism, which the local economy completely depends on, and of course the absolute need to protect people's homes and businesses. Managing the Jurassic Coast means constantly trying to negotiate between all these competing demands.
All right, for a last piece of the puzzle, let's zoom out one final time, because it's so important to see that this coast isn't just a line on a map. It's a living, breathing, interconnected system.
Geographers have a name for this: a sediment cell. You can think of it like a self-contained recycling program for the coast. Rock that erodes from the cliffs in one place, that's the source. That material gets picked up and moved down the coast by a process called longshore drift. And then that sand and shingle gets dropped off or deposited somewhere else to build up new features like beaches or spits. The incredible Chesil Beach is a perfect example of this. It's all connected in this constant dynamic balance.
And that really leaves us with a huge final thought. The Jurassic Coast is a living laboratory, right? It teaches us about the immense power of nature and the sheer scale of geological time. But in our world, a world of climate change and rising sea levels, the challenges it faces are getting more urgent every single day. So the ultimate question is still out there. How do we protect these amazing places and the communities that call them home, while also allowing the very natural forces that created them to continue their timeless, powerful work?